Hello and welcome. Welcome to the Electric Car Hangout. Thanks for joining me tonight. We've got a lot to talk about. It's been a busy month of some pretty strange auto reveals and some exciting ones. And there's been a lot of autonomy talk in the world, especially today. So wanted to kind of get a base of where we are on that and where you guys think we are in that front. So exciting things to talk about, and we'll get to the. I want to talk about the GMC Sierra Denali, and we'll take a look over at the computer about kind of what the specs are in that and things. And it was an interesting reveal, and it comes right on the heels where I've had a chance finally to drive a Rivian R1S. I met a viewer of the channel who lives in the next town over from me, who just got his R1S, and he's like, hey, if people would be interested, I'd love to do a video. And so I interviewed him, got to do a test drive, so thank you, Frank, for letting me do that. And that video should come out tomorrow afternoon, assuming all the upload stuff with YouTube works. But that vehicle was really special. It's very expensive, and so is the GMC Sierra that they announced, which kind of like tied the two together in my mind. But the R1S is very quick for a big vehicle. And on a truck that size, SUV that size, it doesn't feel super wide. Like I've driven my brother's like 2006 Dodge Ram pickup recently, and you're sitting up high in that, but it also feels like you're just spilling over both lanes on either side of you. And so you got to keep that thing right down the center. And the Rivian felt like it's tall, but well planted with the low base of where the batteries are down at the low center of gravity. But you don't feel like it's got these giant hips that are hanging over each side. So interesting. I think that video is pretty interesting. I do like an interview with him, kind of about how he found it, how he got into it, which I think is pretty interesting. Then we take a little look around the vehicle and then do the test drive and talk about some more features and things as we do that. Like I said, that should be coming out tomorrow afternoon, hoping to release it at 4 or 5 p.m. tomorrow. So I'll post it on all the social channels and spam everybody about it. So don't worry. If you're following me, you'll see it. Hey, Roland's here. Hello. Hey. Chemist American Lifestyle with the... he made this fantastic new hat for me. So I've been getting some good wear out of that. Todd, hello. Welcome. Tim, hi. John, hi. Welcome. Steve, good evening. Welcome. Steve's been doing a lot of cool things on his channel with talking to different EV owners and doing some comparisons between... I know he was talking to another vehicle owner. I can't remember which one that was, but he's got a good video about the differences and why different owners would choose the EV6 over the Ioniq 5 or vice versa. So that was a really good conversation, interesting, some different features I hadn't seen on that. So that's Steve's Plug and Play EV channel. So check that out if you haven't. John says, didn't GMC sell out? I don't know. They could have. I'm not sure if they have yet or not. But sorry, my eyes. The lights and focusing, I put my computer in a new spot, so I'm like doing the old man zoom in and out. Hey Larry, welcome. And DBLO Smith, welcome. Thanks for joining. Yeah, so John is bringing up a thing. There's an event for Minnesotans. For the Minnesota EV Owners Group is going to do an event at the kind of big Twin Cities like electrical provider is Xcel Energy, and so they're going to host the group there and do an event in November, I believe the 17th. So if you're in Minnesota and want to go to that, it's a good chance to meet with other people, hang out, talk EVs, talk charging, all that kind of stuff. So that should be pretty fun. So I think we're going to do because I teased talking about the truck, I do want to go over and talk about the GMC Sierra. Not so much because I want to talk about it, because I think it starts at $107,000, and that's... I mean, the Rivian R1S is also very expensive. I think it's in the $90,000 to $95,000 range. But the GMC Sierra is kind of indicative to the broader GM strategy of EVs. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that. And their other new reveal they had last week, and get your guys' opinion on how, kind of what their strategy is, and if you think it's going to work out well for them. I hope it does. The more EVs, the better. And I just did a driving test the other day on Monday, to kind of see how my battery was holding up and how this test compares to when I got the Model Y. And it was exciting to see the other EVs on the road. There were a handful of Teslas and a Mustang Mach-E with a bike rack on the back. So fun to see that, especially if you're traveling in the middle of rural Iowa, that, hey, I'm not the only EV out here. So that's exciting. But anyway, let's do the walk over to the other computer, and I'll bring up the GMC thing. Here we go. Professional time. Professional moving. And we're back. Hi. And is that the truck that was photoshopped off a Rivian? Yes. Somebody posted on Twitter. I don't have that up right now, but a screenshot of Rivian, maybe part of one of Rivian's videos, and then a still from GMC where you saw the back of the vehicle. And clearly the background is the exact same background. They just put a bigger GMC truck over the Rivian truck and photoshopped that in, changed the color of the background a little bit and zoomed in a hair to make it look a little different, but that was pretty brutal. Apparently it was on their Instagram feed, and now it's been removed. So yeah, I turned the sound off so you don't hear me carrying the mic, because I only have one mic. So I just hoist it back and forth between my different sets. So, hey Aaron, welcome. So let me bring up this second screen here, and let's take a look at the GMC Sierra EV Denali Edition 1. You got to give it more names. Every EV needs more names than the last EV. So we're gonna got rid of that. So here we have it. I think it looks really nice. Looks like a truck that you would, the very typical kind of truck-looking truck. I feel like they, to some degree, just took the Hummer and shrunk it, but also took like the best features of the Ford Lightning, as we can see here with their center screen set up with the dial and everything. And their Mega Power Frunk, which they don't call it that, they call it the E-Trunk, or so here's a better shot of that interior. So it feels very, very Lightning. I'm not crazy about this sharp cutoff top, just from a design standpoint, in the binnacle screen. But it's fine. If you're a truck owner, this is going to feel pretty futuristic, but not too crazy. But it does feel like, here's our version of the Lightning. And I was watching, they also took a great design feature from the Silverado EV that should come out next year. And that this midgate can fold down in two sections, and you can take out the back window. And they said in their presentation that you could securely stow that somewhere, but I don't think they ever showed where you stow that, or if you would have to leave it in your garage. So that's really cool, but if you do have to leave it somewhere other than the truck, or you're driving somewhere where it's raining and you've got the back half of your truck open, I'm not sure how great that would be. But it's cool that this can fold down. I think it's 10 foot 10 inches, which I think is what the Silverado gets to when you put the mid gate down. So that's a really cool feature. They say it can power your house for a ridiculous number of days. I can't remember what it was, but it was one of those like, okay, I'd love to see the math on that, but good. It's going to have vehicle to home or vehicle, and then it's got 240 and two 120 outlets in the back, in the tailgate area. It's got one 120 in the front, which I thought was odd because the Lightning has so much power in the front and USBs and stuff like that to really be able to charge anything. And this is like, well, we're giving you one outlet. That's all you get. Then they talk about cruise, Super Cruise, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So with the Power Station Pro standard on Sierra EV Denali Edition 1, the Ultium battery can power your home's essential devices and services when properly equipped for up to 21 days. Now I think the Lightning says up to like 4 days or something, or maybe it's a little more than that, but so that means there's a lot of power in this thing. And I think in the MKBHD video, he said that they don't have specifics, but someone said that basically it's the same battery as the Hummer, which is like 200 kilowatt hours. And I don't know, like on a more normal size truck, why you would need it to be that big. It seems like a huge consumption of batteries. But, also, maybe that means you can tow for a lot longer. They're saying estimated range of 400 miles on a full charge. But they aren't going for speed necessarily, like the Rivian R1S I drove. It was one of the fastest launches I've ever experienced, maybe the fastest. And a truck doesn't need to do that, but it was fun. We were driving in Mexico, of course, when we did that. So it's interesting. I'm excited. I hope GM people or GMC people are excited about it. And then they're going to have different variants available early 2025, late 2024, spring 2024 is the Denali. So still quite a ways away, which is, it's fine. Obviously, we'd like these things to come out sooner, but it's just kind of interesting that GM is starting this high in the price point, and there's a lot of bragging in all of their new vehicles about the Ultium platform and how great it is. But really, as far as I know, it's only been out in the Hummer EV, and there aren't that many of them out there. So I know they've kind of bet the farm on that being the future, but from a consumer standpoint, it seems like relatively untested. And maybe at this stage of the game, people know how to do batteries and it's not worth worrying about. But for how much talk about the Ultium platform there's really only a handful of vehicles in the wild using the Ultium platform. Correct me if I'm wrong, but and obviously, we don't want another Bolt situation. I'm wishing all the success in the world for these, because getting truck people to switch to an EV is a great goal and should be applauded. So I'm not dissing it. I'm just a little hesitant until more of these, till the Silverado comes out, till this comes out, and we've got a lot of vehicles using Ultium, and we actually know it's going to do all the things that kind of are being promised through these presentations. So those are my thoughts. Scroll up here and it's also going to have the not the tank turn, but it's going to have rear wheel steering, and it's going to have crab walk like the Hummer. And that's a feature that, I'd be skeptical, but the Hummer actually does do it. So, that's great. The presentation was a little weird. It was, if you didn't see it, it was Will Arnett. And they had him doing his Batman voice kind of through the whole thing. And every single sentence was the same cadence, because we want to make sure this feature and that feature and this feature and this feature are all the premium, most excellent. And it was just a little like, this seems like an exhausting video shoot and a little hokey, but that's what marketing teams do. So, we'll check up on the chats here. John will talk about Elon in the Sync a little later. GMC truck is, 1,000, 1,500 a month. Steve, very Lightning-esque headlights. I thought that was interesting too. Like, I kind of feel like everybody's going that way, and maybe something more from a design standpoint to make it stand out. But I guess I don't know. I couldn't tell you where the current GMC design language is, so maybe it was close to this. Silverado and Sierra are the same truck. Yeah, kinda. It seems like this one might have a few more, polishy bells and whistles. But if the Silverado is half the price, I don't know why you'd get the Sierra, other than you like one brand, even though it's all under the same company. But Steve says, I've noticed a lot of EV naysayers using the Hummer EV as a case study to show easy EVs are expensive to run. And like that's the one we're all cross-shopping with the Ford Maverick or Prius Prime. Yeah, that's a really good point, and that's something that, I find so interesting, that people expect an EV to be able to do everything, be as efficient as like a Prius Prime, but be able to haul, a huge trailer with a yacht on it across, through, the mountains of Wyoming and Idaho, and, never need to charge. And it's like, well, no vehicle in the ICE world does that. Like, a Prius doesn't do what, an F-350 does, or, it's just, there's different vehicles for different uses, and that's going to be the case with EVs as well. So I'm hoping the Silverado can stay down in price a little bit, and maybe not compare with the Maverick, but, it'd be great to get something like that in an EV soon too. Maybe Ford will do it. One thing I hope the NHTSA addresses is the headlights in the Silverado, GMC, and Ram trucks. They're just way too bright. Yeah, I think part of that is the height for a lot of us, that means they're just blaring right into the back windows. A friend of mine was saying like the Rivian headlights were way too bright. Um, it looked like an alien landing, they said. And, it's kind of a case of you want it bright for the driver, but you want it dim for the other road users. So I know some of the new Matrix headlights, I think some of the newer Teslas have them, and maybe the Mercedes, if I'm thinking right, um, where they can actually like dim certain sections of them as cars are coming or going. But I don't know if they're legal. It's legal to do that here in the U.S. yet. Um, I know that was a holdup in some at some point. Um, but yeah, getting blinded by trucks behind you is awful, or in front of you if you're on the highway. No way, 21 days. Oh yeah, 21 days for charge. I think that it's like you must be just living on your very basics. But most power outages do not last 21 days in the U.S. Um, the GM John is supposed to get with the big battery 400 miles of estimated range on a full charge, and 100 miles in 10 minutes at a 350 kilowatt DC fast charger. So that'd be good. It'll be, kind of the interesting thing with that will be the charge curve. But I think Tom Malogny just did a test where the Hummer was actually pulling more than the station is supposed to give, I guess. He was at a 350 kilowatt station, and I think he was pulling like 363 kilowatts out of it. So we'll see. That's the charging on these things, and where charging curves will be by early 2024 when this comes out may be pretty different than where they are now. Again, that's where we don't know too much about the Ultium battery platform. So how much leeway is there for their software teams to tweak things without damaging anything? The charging speed, I have to imagine it's got to be pretty. If it's got essentially the same battery pack as the Hummer, I would guess it's charging speed at least right now close to that, or that's what they're planning. Well, I know in their presentation they said at a 350 kilowatt DC fast charger, which leads me to believe that it will be able to charge at or near that range. Again, it's a year and a few months away. So I would think by then they would be able to make the maximum use out of those stations. Ready for my audition voiceover? Sure. I don't know. Do I sound funny? Or any more funny than I usually do? John, it does have two 120 volt receptacles in the bed and one 240 volt. And I can't remember what the power output is, but somebody was saying how they just bumped it up slightly more than the Lightning had, just so they could say they had higher numbers. And yeah, John says, you need to drive 400 miles nonstop and not go to the bathroom. But, if this is towing and, you lose half or, a quarter of your range, depending on how they configure it. 200 miles well towing would be pretty fantastic, and I think people would be pretty happy with that, especially if you can get 100 back in 10 minutes. So we'll see. Um, yeah, we'll have to see how the Ultium platform charges long term. It'll be interesting. Um, oh, hey, let me just zoom there. So I think um, I'm excited for this in a very let's wait and see. I hope it's great. It's like a year and a half away, so very cool, but we'll see when it gets here. And at that price point, to me, it's a little. It's probably worth it. It's probably costs a lot to make this, but I'd take less fancy stitching. Oh, excuse me. I'm scrolling on the wrong screen. I'd take less of the fancy stitching on the seats and lower the price for my taste. This is a bit much. I'm not sure, but maybe they're heated and cooled or something like that. And again, that's a value to some people if that's the kind of thing you like. Um, so we'll see. It's good. It's good that they're doing it. Um, but we'll take a look at another GM product here. You can see the my iTunes is up. Where did I? Okay, so here we go. Another GM product. The Cadillac Giant Butt. I mean, the Celestiq. Not that I think it looks like a butt, but I think it has a giant butt. We'll see as we scroll down here. So, Aaron, I think you're right. Yeah, there is going to be a cheaper model, but I don't think that's going to be until 2025. So, that's good, but it's a long wait for prices to come down. And unfortunately, I think that's going to be the case with a lot of things. Yeah, Silverado, Steve, is the less fancy option, and hopefully there's get past the launch editions. And so, kind of talking about GM's strategy is, they've got that coming out, and they're starting with the Denali, and then they're going to do this $300,000 Cadillac Celestiq, which everybody's got different tastes, but look at that. I mean, that is a big hangover on the butt area. I get to some degree that's Cadillac's. For those of us old enough, we remember the old 70s and 80s Cadillacs that were just giant boats that would, kind of float down the road. And so maybe, Cadillac buyer is really stoked about this. It's big and long. I think I'm trying to think. It was a couple inches longer. I think it's longer than a Model S by quite a bit, and like longer than the Hummer. Um, and again, it looks nice. They're all going to be hand built, but just such a strange shape. Actually, from this angle, it kind of looks like the Porsche Taycan SUV or station wagon deal. I can't think of the name of it, but it seems like they said, okay, we have to hit the length targets of the 70s and 80s, but make it look like a more modern car. Um, I don't know. I mean, it's so beyond my price point of where I could even think of spending on a vehicle. Um, that it just doesn't get me too excited. Um, and I'm wondering if GM is doing this to, I think this is going to have the Ultium platform too, I think. So I wonder if this is just, let's throw the mega expensive things out there, get deposits on them so we can, make EVs at scale at the lower price points. And this kind of covers the overhead for that. Um, because, they do have like the Bolt and the Bolt EUV, and those are good vehicles. The only downside is they don't have the faster charging, and I don't think they're on, even the new ones, I don't think are on Ultium. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, it's not my cup of tea. It's not as bad. Like it's not. There have been worse designed cars, but this whole situation right here is um, I'm probably not thinking of the right car, but it's got kind of a Pinto vibe or a 70s um, hatchback kind of vibe, just because this is just hanging out here so long. So we'll see. At $300,000, people will buy them, and that's great. Um, just going to go back and catch up on the chat here. I don't know if GM has a hotspot built in. We'll have to see when that actually launches. We actually own the Elevation ice powered. Oh, that's the truck. Okay. Aaron, how is that? I have no idea how modern GMC trucks are. I don't know anyone. Like, I know people own them, but I don't know anyone in my immediate circle that owns one. Cadillac wants to look like the back of a boat. Even the Bolt has Wi-Fi hotspot, so I hope the GM doesn't ditch it for work trucks. Yeah, if the Bolt has it, I'm sure, especially the premium. I don't know how many times they said premium or luxury in the reveal thing, but I'm sure they would have it if it's in the Bolt. Larry says it looks like the designers were fighting over making it a sedan, a station wagon, or an SUV, and everybody lost. Yeah, there could be an argument for that. I guess if you're, in my mind, like this seems like they went, okay, we're going to make this super aerodynamic, and went for, the classic aerodynamic shape at the back end and just let that taper down. But at a car this expensive, why not make it look like, why not make it aesthetically the most beautiful thing you can, and whatever the range is, that's what the range is. Um, I think that's the case with the. There was another super expensive one, not Mercedes, but Rolls Royce. I think announced a vehicle about the same time. And I can't say I haven't gotten a close look at that one either, but um, you know, I don't think the range is quite as good, or maybe this one the range isn't as good. But at this price point, people are the people who can buy this car are flying long distances. This is not probably going to be the road tripper, but um, yeah, Steve says I'm a bit bored of the Halo cars now. To be honest, we need the $30,000 options. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm feeling with you know the GMC with this one. The Rolls Royce, of course, is monster expensive too, and anything over $100,000, it's like okay, that's cool. Even the Teslas, which I own a Tesla. But once they start getting up that high, it's like, okay, well, most people can't even stretch up to get this. So, it's good that they're out there for the people who can afford them, but, let's start working down the market a little bit. Um, GM said for some time that people don't want EVs. Yeah, when you make them look like that, yeah. Um, well, and that's where like it seems like you either have these really expensive ones or the Bolt, which is great, but we're not going to let it charge very fast. Um, and so it's like, are you hobbling them on both ends? And it's just unfortunate. Uh, um, Aaron thought Pinto too. Um, Everyone's trying so hard to follow the Tesla model that they aren't forward looking in the market needs. Yeah, that's what it seems. Uh, Pinto vibe, at least if you run into the back of it, it won't blow up. Yeah, well, that's the upside. Aaron says, talking about the excursion, or what was the name of that again? The elevation. It's a decent truck, but compared to our Model Y, that is only 1 year newer, it's a dinosaur. Uh, Roland says maybe they want to brag that they have the biggest mirror roof. Yeah, maybe. Anyway, that's out. It's good they're making EVs, um, but yeah, when they do we're the leader in EVs and we've announced so many um, vehicles. I think part of the GMC thing was we're the only brand to have announced 3 EV pickups, and one of them is on the road right now. And it's like, well, yeah, that's great, but one of them's on the road right now, and you're not making very many of them. So get to it. Yeah, I forgot the Equinox will be a GM product at around $30,000. Um, and people do, that's kind of, I think that's kind of crossover territory like the Ionic 5 and Model Y. So if they can keep the cost down on that, yeah, I would think they'll sell a ton of them because the Equinox is significantly bigger than the Bolt, isn't it? Again, I don't know anyone personally who owns one, but um, I feel like it's a little bit bigger vehicle. So that's pretty cool. John's got to make sure the house is paid off before he buys $100,000 vehicle. Yeah, that would be good. Make sure you're not overreaching to get the. Isn't there going to be an EV Blazer as well? I think so, Yeah, there is. There is going to be an EV Blazer. Um, and Steve says everything. Yes, they did announce the Blazer because I thought, hey, is that a Mach-E? Because it looks like just they redid the outside of a Mach-E to make it Blazer. Um, and I think that's out next year. Maybe that's 2024 or 2025 as well, or 20. How about we just look it up? Available starting. Production model will vary. Blazer EV available starting summer 2023. Okay. The SS will be available fall of 2023. So that's not too far off. And that'll be good to have another, something in the Model Y Mach-E segment. Starting at 45,000, and if they can do it so they get the incentives, from the government, that will bring that down a bit. So that would be good. Steve says everything else is compromised. Bolt slow DC fast charging. Leaf on Chatamo. I can't believe how long they left the Leaf on Chatamo, but and I think they're still selling it with Chatamo. And no cooling. Kona and Nero both too close in price, and you're better off getting the Ioniq 5 and EV6. Yeah. The Kona and Nero are both great, but they're, again, limited to 70 kilowatts, 72 kilowatt charging, which isn't the end of the world, but it's not, it's almost 2023. We got to pump those numbers up. Yeah, Blazer in the 40 to 50 bracket. Just bought a Model Y Performance so far. There's no EV out right now or on the horizon that I want to trade it for. Good. I'm glad. I just did a 50,000 mile review on my Model Y, and it's not the right vehicle for everybody. Everybody's got different tastes and things, but I was thinking, I should include some negatives in here and what I don't like about it, and it was exactly what I expected it to be. I think that's a big part of especially EV buying, is doing the research and understanding as best you can before you get a new vehicle. Understand what you're getting and if you're going to be happy with that. And I had the Model S before, traded that in for the Y, and that was a little adjustment period. I still think the Model S looks much better, even the old one we had with the nose cone. But it is what I expected it to be. It performs the way I expected it to, and I've just been really happy with it. If I wouldn't have hit a raccoon and done some other stupid things with it, but that's wear and tear on, that would be on any vehicle. So the duct tape is not off yet, Steve. Still working on that. I'm actually going to be at a Halloween event one of the service centers in town is having on Saturday. And so I'm going to see if I can have somebody come out and just look at it and go, do I just need new clips, or does this whole plastic piece need to be replaced? And probably put in a service ticket after I talk to them, but we'll see. It's on the list before winter, but We're also kind of in a saving money mode right now. So unless it's critical, we're kind of putting some of those things off. Um, but like as I'm saying, the Model Y is the perfect vehicle for what I wanted and for our family. Um, for Steve, it was the Ioniq 5, and as best I can tell from his videos, he's very happy with it and enjoys road tripping in it, and great. And I'm sure with the research he did in advance, it's what he expected it to be, and is enjoying it for the reasons why he bought it. So that's fantastic. I'm happy when anyone's happy with their EV, even if I wouldn't necessarily buy it. Like the R1S I drove the other day was fantastic and really cool. I have no need for that vehicle, and it would be a big waste of space and energy for me to get it. But I enjoy it, and Frank was really, really happy to have it. So I'm happy that he's happy. Um, how about the GM Honda SUV? Roland, I know I've seen pictures of that, but I don't know if I've looked closely at it because I can't remember if it was coming here or what the deal with that is. UV. Not sure if this is the. This article is from April, but yeah, I mean, if they made something like that and brought it to the U.S., we can expect these models to arrive in the U.S. starting in 2027. You can't see that screen, sorry. So, I think it looks all right, but if it's not here till 2027, I think a lot of things are going to change by then, and so it's tough to get excited about it. But if they can do it, then that's great. And maybe they could keep the price down. Honda will use two electric SUVs coming in 2024. And there's the Equinox. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think I kind of saw the dates were out a ways on that one, and just haven't looked terribly closely. But if they can make something like this and it's good crossover size, then that would be great. Aaron says, I really wish Tesla had basically a Model Y Max, something just a little bigger but more reasonably priced than the X. The Y is just a little small for a family of four. Yeah, I can see that. The R1S is a great size. Yep, for a bigger family. Our family is 3 people, and occasionally we have my brother with us or somebody, but most of the time it's 3 people, and the R1S would be overkill. And our garage is too short. Larry asked, did I see the Reuters article that said Toyota is thinking of scrapping the ET and GA platform and doing a clean sheet EVs because the EV growth is going faster than they expected and trying to match Tesla's factory cost per vehicle. I did see that. Uh, uh, Thank you, Gerhard. 98 Red Green is proud of me for using duct tape on the car, I'm assuming. I did see the Reuters article about Toyota, and it's unfortunate, but a few years ago, people were talking about, kind of as the Model 3 was ramping, that the the GMs of the world, the Fords of the world, we're going to have to rip the Band-Aid off and rethink and come at EVs more aggressively. And Ford really took to it. GM seems like they kind of took to it. And Toyota just seemingly did nothing. And then they released, was it the BZ4X? And they're just not selling, and the specs aren't good. I might be thinking of the Mazda, so correct me if I'm wrong. But regardless, they've just been falling behind, and apparently, judging by their cost per vehicle comments in there, they're just not building them at a good cost where they can scale it fast. So where Ford and GM, Volkswagen got the message, seemingly in the 2018, 2019 time frame, Toyota's getting the message now and ripping that Band-Aid off, but they already, started down one path. So, I guess it's better than, continuing down a failing path. It's frustrating because I loved the Prius when we got it. I thought it was so cool and so futuristic. And, then they made the Prius Prime, which is exactly what I'd wanted. Like, let me plug this battery in and just run a little bit, around town on just the battery. And, by the time we needed a new vehicle, we moved up and just went all electric with the Tesla. But, the whole time I'm like, Toyota, the Prius was a great car. You got to just keep, don't get comfortable with one technology. Push it further, push it further, push it further. And any one of these companies could have buried Tesla had they jumped in both feet. But we'll see. They're a huge company. I'm not one of those people who thinks all the other automakers are going to go bankrupt, but it's going to be tough, especially now, to try to catch up with the other players. Yeah, John, don't cut anything on the front hood with a knife on the Model Y. Yeah. That was, to tell a scary story, that was about a year ago this very day. I was making foam teeth to dress the car up like a monster, and I was going to have kids trick or treat out of the frunk and have, the teeth hanging from the top and everything. And yeah, I just got too lazy toward the end. It's always, on the last thing you're doing, and the knife slipped and went right into the front bumper area, and it broke my heart. It was one of those, like, when it happened in slow-mo that I couldn't stop. And then I just dropped the knife on the ground and just walked away because I couldn't even look at it. I couldn't live with myself for about 20 minutes, and then I was able to shake it off and just, but still it pains me to see it. The good news is it's not metal, so it isn't rusting or anything. It just doesn't look great. Disappointed in Toyota. Had the same feeling with R1T. Tons of fun, great utility, but I don't need a truck. Yeah. The R1T, if I needed a truck again, that's the truck I would get. Not that I don't like some of the other things, that are out or would come out. I just don't need anything that big. The Honda Blazer EV, yeah, kind of. It does look like a Honda Blazer. And Steve says, yeah, you might as well just claim it'll do your laundry if we're talking 5 years out. Yeah, that's, who knows where the EV world will be, where charging will be, where anything, where form factor will be, or, interior styling and all that stuff. We're quite a ways away from that. Aaron says 4 people, suitcases, and a dog kennel is challenging in the Model Y. Oh, yeah, I bet. If you're doing a dog kennel too, yeah. The R1S would definitely fit all that comfortably. Stay tuned till tomorrow when my video drops, and I'll show you how the back seats all fold down and all that stuff, if you haven't seen it yourself in person. Yeah, exactly. 2027 should charge at 450 kilowatts, get a 400 miles out of a 50 kilowatt hour battery, etc. Yeah, who knows where we're going to be by that point. Solid megawatt charging in 1 kilometer mile solid state packs. 2027 will be a game changer for Honda. Yeah. Yeah, aren't we supposed to have solid state by now? Who knows? Yeah, John, I don't know. There's people make assumptions, and they have a tendency to feel like they're the first person to ever think of some of this stuff. I do, I look at a lot of the articles and things that get posted on Facebook and different places, and the comment sections are always the same. Where you're gonna just run that on coal? What's gonna happen to the batteries? All these things that are, you could easily look them up, but people just think, oh, I know what's going on, and just barf out the same old questions as if people who have been working in this field for 15 or 20 years you're the first one to, come up with that question. Boy, good thing you're here to solve the world's problems. Yeah, it just blows my mind. John was talking about the 400-mile range, and he and I had talked about that a little earlier this week. On Monday, I did a test, and I've done this with the Model S and a couple gas cars, our Toyota Corolla and our Prius. So like a full gas car that was pretty efficient. Our Prius, which is, even though it's old, it's still very efficient. Then the Model S, and then I've done this test a couple times with the Model Y to see how far I could get in 8 hours. And, I have to stop to charge within that 8 hours. And the results are always kind of around 500-ish miles. I won't spoil that video. That'll be coming in a couple weeks. But kind of in that ballpark between all the vehicles. Some make it higher, some make it lower, but some of those stops were like, I really need to stop for me to use the restroom. And then if you go in, use the restroom, grab a snack, and do one more thing, like check social media for a couple minutes, or during this trip I had to pump up the tires at one of the stops because it was cold. And so I did that, and then boom, we're ready to go. Until people experience it, they just don't realize how fast charging times can go by. Aaron says we have a R1S on order. After checking it out, we'll see what the budget looks like down the road. Pretty pricey. Yeah, that's the only downside of it, but it is it's a pretty cool vehicle. Larry says this will be his first winter with the Model 3 long range in the Twin Cities. Currently plan to run on the stock 18 all seasons rather than get a set of snow tires. We've run the all seasons and it's been okay. It depends on how much you have to go out when it's really bad. And obviously you know that better than I do. There have been times when I've slid a little bit and, I've lived here all my life though and never had winter tires, so I guess I just, leave a long, distance in front of me and, try to drive defensively. But I've heard people who say, who swear by getting winter tires and say it just makes a world of difference. So it probably does. It's probably smart to do it. And of course, if I slid into somebody, I'd be kicking myself for not having winter tires. But for the most part, unless the roads are icy, in winter for me, the Model S and the Model Y have both just been a tank, and really, the low center of gravity with most EVs, keeps you planted. They're heavy vehicles, so you can push through snow. Even in the Model S, which had a pretty low ride height, we were able to push through some pretty deep snow. So if you're comfortable and confident on all seasons in other vehicles, you'll probably be okay. But like I said, only you can know that, for your own comfort level. Aaron says the post I shared from Wolf Mountain had a guy saying EVs won't work in the cold states. I told him it's a ski hill in Minnesota, Wild Mountain. Yeah, the craziness on that, and even from some of my relatives who've known, like, I've had one since 2018. It's like, well, they won't work here. It's like, well, where are you going that I'm not? I was talking to someone who said he wanted an EV, but he couldn't afford buying a $20,000 battery pack every 20,000 to 30,000 miles. Yeah, that's another big one. Is how often do you have to replace the battery? And I'm at 22,500 miles, I think, on our Model Y, and battery seems healthy to me. The Model S, when we traded it in, had over 110, maybe closer to 120,000 miles. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was running just fine. No problems on that battery pack. Gerhard, the biggest thing I run into is that it isn't possible to keep an EV charged on a home charger. I think they probably read that it would take 2+ days to charge on a regular 120 outlet. Yeah. That's a misconception that, I did a video on, like, how long does it take to charge a year and a half ago. I can't remember, but it was one of those, like, what video can I do while we're in lockdown? So I just left the car on the 120, and it took 5 days to fully charge it up. And then I charged it, ran it down again and charged it, in 8 hours or whatever overnight on the 240 plug. Then took it to a supercharger and charged it to 80% in 30 minutes or whatever it was, and then finishing it I think took an hour, but still, like, people just don't get that there are varying levels of how you do things, how you can do that. Uh, Steve says EVs don't work in the cold places. Norway has entered the chat. Yeah, that's they've got some they've got some good cold weather up there. Seem to be doing all right with them. Things I hear in order of frequency: 1, takes too long to charge at stops. 2, can't charge at home. 3, don't want to buy batteries every $20,000. Yeah, the can't charge at home thing would be less convenient. But takes too long to charge at stops. I think people just need to experience it, especially if you have kids or pets. I was talking to a woman in South Dakota this summer who was telling me she just couldn't stop for that long to charge a vehicle. And then she goes off and, runs her pet in the, pet area for, 20 minutes or something. I'm like, well, there's your time right there. And, your pet is happier. You'd be more relaxed, and it doesn't really change your day that much. John, I think Kyle does have somewhere around 200,000 on his Model 3. I can't remember what the exact number is, but he's up there on that one. Let's see. Wondering if we can switch sets here yet. Oh no, while I'm here, I want to show you a couple video features that I made just for you. Yeah, so we'll look at these, and then I did want to show while I'm here, the Polestar 3 was announced. Unfortunately, this one too, you can't see this yet. There we go. Unfortunately, this one came in much more expensive than I was hoping. I was hoping this was going to be in the $50,000 range, and I can't remember what it is. I think it's mid 80s or something. And I think it looks pretty good. Yeah, starting at $84,000, which is a ton for a starting price. But it looks like it's going to be about that Model Y size. Maybe a little bigger. Maybe there's a little more headroom in the back here because it doesn't slope down so much. And the Polestar 2 is nice to drive. Ooh, look at all this. Fancy animations. They're nice, comfortable, but it's just that starting price is rough. They've got their camera systems, which, we'll talk a little bit about some of this here in a minute. John, the guy on my shirt is Bob Ross. I'm all backwards in the camera, so. So it's cool. I'm excited. They've announced it, and they are, moving forward. Making their next vehicles. I like what they're doing. But as I watch this, I'm like, cool. Ooh, that price is rough. So we'll see. Again, I think it's a ways off. Maybe starting deliveries next year in Europe, if that sounds right. Let's see if we go to configure here. Starting from fourth quarter 2023. So yeah, about a year away. I don't know if that's... We must be on the U.S. site. So but I think it's nice. People will enjoy it, um, so that's good. Um, Tomorrow, I'm actually going. There's a new Polestar. They've been working out of a Volvo dealership for the last year and a half, at least, um, at least that I've known. And tomorrow night they're having a grand opening of their new Minneapolis like specific Polestar showroom. I think they'll have service there too. They've invited me so I would bring a camera and do a video on it. Um, Also to be nice, but they're expecting me to bring cameras and stuff, so I will do that because I'm curious and I'm sure you all are too. So uh, I keep scrolling on the wrong screen here. You can see some different colors are all very similar, but um, but I'm excited, to kind of talk to them, about the new facility, how sales of the Polestar 2 have been going this year. I've been seeing some of them around, and really looking forward to seeing more of these. Again, it's just these price points are rough. Yeah, John, YouTube's the place to go for EV education, he said unbiasedly. Watch Steve's channel. Watch Plug and Play EV and Iowa Tesla Guy and all those other channels. Um, let's see. Steve, hope they can get the Polestar 3 price down eventually, as they did with the Polestar 2. Did they drop the Polestar 2? I don't remember that. I may not have been following them at the beginning. Yeah, lots of competitive. If you're willing to spend 80 grand, you gotta uh, really bring it at that price point. Um, but did the Polestar 2 start out more expensive and then come down? Because that would be a good sign if that happened. Yeah, John, you got to be making plenty of money to afford that. Uh, Polestar 3 is probably the vehicle I'd buy if not for Tesla. Yeah, I think that'll be. I think a lot of people on the higher end who don't want Tesla will go for Polestar. I know that's the case, with people who didn't really care for the Model 3. When with the Polestar 2 and we're happy with it. Other than the funky cup holders. Brandon Flash had a pretty good video after he owned one for a while and Polestar 2. And then he kind of did a video of his likes and dislikes after owning it for a while, and kind of showed the real life of living with it. And for the most part, he liked it really well. But there were a couple things, and one of them was the cup holders are staggered, and one of them is under the armrest. So if you want to use both of them, you have to lift up the armrest and leave it open, and then your cups sit one in front of each other, which is a little funky. But I wanted to share a couple little things that are kind of Minnesota specific, but they're also kind of examples of more stuff is coming into places that we don't expect. So this first piece is a video I just put out on Facebook, but it's about some new EV Go chargers coming to Roseville, which I think this is the first EV Go stations in Minnesota. Although they might be building a second one, but neither of these are online or on the map from EV Go right now. So I'll play this. It's just about a minute long or something, but I'll play this. Roland, have a good night. Thanks for stopping by. Let's see. The first Polestar was a hybrid, high-performance vehicle with a high price. Yes, Polestar 2 came in and looked affordable. Steve says they released the single motor Polestar 2 and got the price down to 45,000. Then prices snuck back up to 40. Okay, that makes sense. So now I'm going to take you to pre-recorded, like I said, minute-long piece on a new Roseville install of EVgo. My friend John tipped me off to a new charger install from EVgo in Roseville, Minnesota, in the Target parking lot. It's a little bit out of the way, but I can see people going up to those Delta units having a little bit of issue if they're pulling into the roadway. And here we can see the chargers. They're Delta units, and looks like one CHAdeMO and one CCS on each handle there. And here on the right side of the plate, you can see that the maximum output is 100 kilowatts for each of these units. The other two units on the backside were still bagged, so I don't have any details on those. And looks like we're still waiting to get the transformer or some final pieces put in here. And here's the back plate on the white boxes. And here we can see the power is still waiting to come in from the road. There's some coiled up cable there and some stanchions, but looks like they're putting it all together. It'll be really interesting to see what's under those navy blue tarps and see what kind of units those are. I'm sure CCS, but I wonder if they'll have higher power. So thanks to John, and we'll look forward to seeing when these open. And so those are the new EVgo stations. And that's pretty cool. I had no idea these were coming. Every now and again, I do check the Electrify America website and the EVgo website just to see, when are we going to get some more CCS support here in Minnesota, because it's rough right now, especially if you go north or west of the metro. South is starting to be built out a little bit, but still, we're a dead zone, and the Dakotas are a dead zone for CCS charging, at least at any high level. So really hoping they can fill in some of those gaps. 100 kilowatt is good speed for leisurely shopping, but not exactly screaming. Yeah, I think it's 100 kilowatts on those smaller units. The ones with the CHAdeMO. So I would think, that would where you'd want to have your leafs and your bolts plugging into those. And then, like Steve says, the 350 kilowatts are under the covers. I've heard other people say that. I didn't look, but those are definitely bigger units, and I'm assuming that's where the high-powered ones will be. So yeah, that's great. It's only two stations of those higher powered ones, but that will be, I guess there are other 350s in the state, but in that part of the metro, it's not. In that part of the metro, it's pretty close to like the major stadiums and stuff. So a good spot to have good fast charging. Aaron, have a good night. Thanks for stopping by. Steve, I don't know if you're saying good night to Aaron, or saying good night, but either way, if you're heading out, have a good night. Thank you. And then I wanted to show you all another good charging opportunity that I don't usually think of. So this again is just a short little piece, and then I'm going to have to voice over because I just put it together this afternoon. So here we are. I plugged in at 47% at a regional park that I actually found from the Rivian R1S owner. When we did that test drive, this is one of the places we came through. And this is in my county, and it's just a regional park. And I usually think of like state parks or national parks as a good place for level 2 charging. But this has a whole kids play area over to the left of where we're looking now, and then all these trails. And in the winter, it's got um, good trails for um, snowshoeing, sledding, and cross country skiing. So, there are these opportunities, these places around us that are really cool. This park is well built out, not crowded, and just a cool place for families to go enjoy. And the charging is free. And because it's in my county, my taxes are paying for my charge anyway. So I decided I would just plug in there since both sides of the charge point were open. Cost nothing. I charged for an hour and had a good parking spot out of the deal as well, and got up to 55%. So not a huge charge, but again, paying for it with my tax dollars, and um, a really nice place to spend some time. Since I shot this, my daughter and I have been there at least one more time to just go and play. And it's cool it's worth looking on places like PlugShare to find some of these new parks to you and enjoy what you can find out there. And you might just find some free charging. So wanted to share that because I thought it was cool and chill and fun. So I can't wait until charging stations are like gas stations, pull through, covered, some benches and trash cans, a place to get some food and snacks, coffee shop or taco shop. Yeah, that would be fantastic. That's kind of, well, they don't have the pull-through stations or covered, but the new superchargers that are going into like Buc-ee's and places like that are kind of bigger, kind of like truck stop almost kind of places. But yeah, pull-through stations would be really nice, especially as these bigger trucks get on the road, as the supercharger network opens up, as other stations, as more, Tesla owners are now using CCS more and more. Get canopies with solar, is kind of a no-brainer. On-site storage is a no-brainer. Obviously, it adds, cost and some complexity, but if you can avoid those heavy demand charges, it would probably be worth it. So, let's see, I think now we can go back to the other camera and I can actually sit down for a minute. So, I will catch you over there in a minute. Things can I balance at once here? All right. We're on and we've got audio again. Sorry about that. That took a little longer. I thought I'll just bring my water over, but I don't have a good place to set it here. So if you hear a big splash, that's my water falling over. So the other thing I wanted to talk a little bit about was kind of where we are with autonomy and where you guys think we are, what your opinions are. I'd love to get those on where we are, where we're going, how long it's going to take. Because today, Argo AI got shut down, and I think they were maybe doing pilot programs, I think in Austin and Miami, I think. and I don't know a ton about them other than they were kind of funded by Ford and VW. And Jim Farley had a tweet out this afternoon, something to the effect of, there's a lot of great employees there, and we hope to onboard them, on the Ford team working on their level 2 and level 3 systems, um, to enhance, more places where they can do hands-free driving. Um, and I'm, obviously a Tesla owner. I'm a FSD beta tester, but I'm also someone who's been in a pretty rough accident in my past, and I did a video on that about a motorcycle accident. And I came out of it pretty well. Um, but my brother was almost killed. Um, Long road to recovery for him, and it was just someone didn't see us coming, and we T-boned into a car on a motorcycle. So although I am an FSD beta tester, I'm also of the opinion that I don't really care who gets there first. I don't care if Tesla's wrong. Um, I care that the roads get safer, however that happens. Um, and I don't mean to say that as like being on a high horse at all, because I've done stupid things myself in cars. I've, pulled out on a vehicle, that was kind of hidden by my A pillar, and I just didn't see them and almost hit them. And, accidents happen. You don't catch everything. If the light's shining on your eyes, you might hit, like a Bigfoot and then have to take him home. And then when people find out, you have to throw rocks at him and tell him to go away. That's a different thing. But what I'm saying is, sometimes stuff just happens on the road. So anything we can do to make the roads safer, I'm all for. I think what Tesla's doing might work. What I think maybe they're, even if they don't solve it, I think what they're doing to push all the other players to work harder on the problem is a good thing. So if they don't solve it and maybe Comma AI solves it, or Waymo suddenly gets to the point where they can expand everywhere quickly, or Cruise, is driving around parts of San Francisco. If they can scale up and it saves lives, then I don't care who solves it. And maybe a few different approaches will solve it. But it's just kind of interesting to me where people see the different systems and what adds value where. And I think everybody kind of defines what the value proposition of that, where that line is. Like I was just watching a video on Twitter of someone taking a cruise ride, and it went kind of slow, and it was in restricted hours in a restricted part of San Francisco, but it did the trip they asked it to. Waymo is the same way, where it's geofenced and things, but they are actually giving rides without people in the vehicles. So obviously those people don't have to drive; they can do whatever they want to in the vehicle. With Tesla's system, obviously we're still at the the wheel nags and things like that. But I have noticed on the test I did on Monday, as I was going through Iowa, the nags, I had my hand off the wheel. It was very safe, straight stretch of highway. but you can tell they're doing more with eye tracking because it went about a full minute, maybe 1 or 2 seconds variable, but it went a full minute of me not touching the wheel and it just driving. I was like looking straight ahead the whole time and, you know, occasionally glancing at the screen just to see what time it was. But, you know, I just had my hands on my lap and it was doing all the driving. And most of the time it does. You just have to have that little bit of torque. And some people find that really aggravating. I don't. I just rest my hand there. And then there are systems like Rivian's Driver Plus or Blue Cruise or Chevy's. Who's got ProPilot? GM is Super Cruise. Anyway, there's a bunch of them that are hands-free, but only on selected sections of roadway, things like that. I've been watching a lot of the videos from the Mach-E vlog, and, you know, they kind of demonstrate how, you know, it's mostly hands-free, and then sometimes it asks you to assist a little bit in the Mach-E. So I guess my thinking is if it adds utility to what you're doing, then there's a value in that, even if it's imperfect or you have to assist on a turn or a section of road. You know, if it's taking some of that tiredness off, if it's being more vigilant of what's around you, there's a value to that. With the you know, with where FSD is right now, it's not perfect. In fact, today one of my cameras wouldn't initialize, so I might have to. That could just go away when I wake up in the morning. But I wasn't able to do a couple trips on FSD just because the camera wasn't available. So that could just be a bug, or it could be, you know, something with my camera or whatever. But I use it almost daily, and although I do have to correct it once in a while on a trip, a lot of times I put it on and it does 90% plus of the drives. And then if there's a funky construction area or it's, you know, picks the wrong lane or whatever, I'll correct it. But especially when my daughter's in the car, that's so helpful to know there's another set of eyes on the road. And it does really well through a lot of really boring stuff. And for me, like last year, roundabouts and things like that were just, it was unusable on that, which still wasn't the end of the world. I just, you know, took over at those places. But now it's doing roundabouts. It's choosing paths it wouldn't have chosen 6 months ago. So you can see a definite progression of capabilities there. But it's not finished yet. It's not full self-driving. But that doesn't mean there's no utility to it, or it can't be useful, or you can't enjoy it. There's been a lot of times it's stopped for things I didn't see. I haven't had, I know Aaron, I think he left a bit ago, but for a while he was having really bad phantom braking. That hasn't been a big problem for me. So maybe it's a matter of where I'm driving or times a day or who knows, but so I think there's, you know, the kind of mindset of if it can't do everything right now, it's worthless. And then there's the, you know, people like me who are like, no, it can do a lot of things. I'll let it do a lot of things and it will get better over time. Now, right now, the FSD package is $15,000, and I would not buy it for $15,000. Not because it isn't really cool, but because it's, that's just too much money for any feature that I don't expressly need. But I bought it when it was significantly cheaper. I think 7,000, which was still a lot, and kind of on the fence of should I do this or not. But if I were to buy a new Tesla today, I would just do the subscription model. And, if you're the kind of person who wants it to be perfect, I'd just wait and do the subscription when you think it's at the level you want it to be. But, I definitely wouldn't buy it outright for the price it is now. But, somebody asked on one of my videos a few weeks ago, would I get it, or maybe it was on Facebook, but would I get it for a road trip? If I was doing a really long road trip, would I subscribe to get me through that? And then it might be worth it. You would have a good chance to really test it out over the course of that trip. And then, you could decide where you are on that spectrum of, yes, this is worth keeping the subscription, or no, I'm going to turn it back or turn it off and come back to it in a year and see where it is there. If I were a new owner, that's kind of where I would be. So let me just check up on the comments here and see how you guys are feeling about it and what you guys think. Can't wait till... Okay. John says, interesting, guys. Tesla just put 2 brand new superchargers in Maple Grove and North Branch. Oh, around 40... yeah, and there's 2 different prices in 2 brand new stations that aren't that far away, which is interesting. I'm going to have to check that out. I just haven't had time to get up there yet, John. Steve is still waiting for something like the UK grid serve forecourts to open over here. Yeah, that would be awesome to have. If you haven't checked those out, look those up, because that's kind of the ideal. Like, people would love owning EVs if that's the kind of station you could go to all the time. Speaking of CCS, did you get an adapter? I did, and was thinking of traveling EA just to switch things up a bit. A shame Tesla nav 3 lightning bolt option doesn't show UV stations. I've used John's charger. Used John's adapter. I haven't bought one for myself yet. It's one of those things I've been meaning to do, but we're kind of, like I said, we're kind of in a patch of trying to save money as we're leading up to the holidays and things. So it's not necessary. So I haven't sprung for one yet. We did a video. We borrowed John's CCS adapter, so thank you, John. And did a road trip on just CCS, and it worked fine. We had a couple little things to get used to. Definitely set up your whatever apps you're going to use. Set up your payment arrangements and all that stuff before you're standing there in the parking lot trying to do it. But it's fun, and right now, a lot of EA stations are actually cheaper than superchargers. So depending on the time of day, and if you're going to use EA stations a lot, you can sign up for their, I can't remember what the name of their program package is, but basically you get an extra 12 cents off every kilowatt hour. So definitely worth it if you're gonna get the adapter and use it fairly often. Then do that. Oh, and as for it not showing it, the Tesla Nav not showing EA stations yet. Um, if you know where an EA station is and want to precondition your battery, navigate to a nearby supercharger and then just drive to the EA station. Your battery pack will warm up and you'll be able to charge fast, um, and then just cancel the nav once you start charging. Uh, I like driving, so self-driving isn't a big draw for me. Yeah, I get that. I like driving too, but on the big long stretches, um, in town, it's more um, neat playing with new technology. Um, but I do, I'm also thinking of from the accident standpoint of, if I can help this progress faster by being a beta tester, then I want to be part of that happening. And then yeah, that's going to be the big um, question going forward. Is, let's say autonomy is solved tomorrow, and it's super cheap. Are people just not going to use it because they want to drive? Maybe. There's definitely going to be a long transition period where autonomous vehicles are going to be driving with human drivers driving. And it'll be really interesting to see how that time period goes. Sorry about the accident. I was in a bad motorcycle accident and broadsided you. Oh, ouch. Surprised you weren't crushed. Nissan is ProPilot. Thank you, Steve. My motorcycle accident when I was young and stupid and wearing a t-shirt and shorts. Ouch. Car made a left-hand turn in front of me. Panicked, locked up both the wheels and went down. Today, same situation, wouldn't go down. Yeah, we didn't go down. We went straight into the side of it, still going, and then kind of flipped over the car. Yeah, I have a video on. I don't want to dwell on that. It's depressing, but I do have a video on that. I think it's called like why, or like the argument for FSD, or why FSD, or something like that. I did it about maybe a year ago, and I kind of I show some of the footage of the aftermath and stuff. It wasn't pleasant. Steve says I've been a bit. Is my wife hates it. She won't let me drive when it's on. She thinks it's too jerky or whatever. And so that's cool that your wife's more into it. I would love to get my wife more involved in the channel and have her comment on her thoughts and using FSD and stuff like that. But she just wants nothing to do with being in front of the camera. So I have to. The few occasions I can drag her in, I have to make the most of them. But yeah, it's it's not not everybody's going to want to do it. Steve, they gotta have the pizza machine too. I don't know what that means, John. Steve says Ioniq 5 has ADA2 highway drive assist, but it's still basic. Adaptive cruise, centering, lane change. Again, his wife uses it everywhere. Steve is in Massachusetts, I believe. Not too far from Boston. Obviously, correct me if I'm wrong. Kyle Connor did an EV charging over in Germany, and they had they had a pizza machine at the charging station. Yeah, they have did a lot of cool little promo things last summer. You are in Boston, okay? But I once knew a young lady from Austin, Minnesota. Very much enjoy the Twin Cities and Duluth, for what it's worth. Yeah, those are great. It was kind of in the search for a new job, and a couple things popped up in Massachusetts, and she was looking at them and telling me, and we were talking about it. And it's all very, like, should I apply for this kind of thing? And I'm like, I could hang out with Steve and do road tests and things with him. Thanks for joining. DBL0 Smith. He's out. Thanks for the live show. Thanks for joining. I appreciate you hanging on so long. You guys need to check out of Spec Motoring. Yeah, definitely, if you haven't seen their videos. And of course, as I'm just about to release the R1S video, they put out a video on the R1S today. So that's good. Hopefully that just generates more interest in the topic. So, but it's always kind of funny when, different people have the same idea or the same kind of content coming out at the same time. But that's good because everybody's got a different perspective. And some people enjoy one person's presentation style to another's. And so the more people covering EVs, the better. I'm just looking through my notes here, and I think, it's 11:19 already. I didn't even see the time. Talked about that. Yeah, so tomorrow night I'm going to that Polestar event, which is exciting. And I'm going to see their new facility. Years and planning and getting new stations in the ground takes time, and it feels like it's never going to get there. And then you look back, and I was watching Zach and Jesse's Tesla Time News the other day, I think last week or the week before. And they were mentioning some of the new superchargers that had opened in Minnesota, and they're like, and number 22 in Minnesota. And I'm like, wait a minute, no, you have to be wrong. There's no way there are 22 superchargers in Minnesota. So I pulled up the Find Us map on Tesla's site, counted them all. I know where they all are, but it just never occurred to me that we've gone from, 5 or 6 when I first got my Model S in 2018 to 22 and more under construction right now. And more, kind of on the borders that you could call technically, or, aren't technically Minnesota, but are handy for Minnesotans. And that's just, fantastic growth in just a few years. So it is happening, even though it isn't happening as fast as we'd all like it. But with that, Joan, I don't know if yeah, Steve, it's lovely here but expensive. That's what she said. She was like, well, if we lived, with the potential salary, we could make it work, but everywhere is really expensive. But I said, well, probably the new salary would account for that if we were to live there. But let's see. Charlie says it's bedtime, so good night. Good night. The Polestar event, I don't know if it's open. I had to fill like an invite form out that they sent to me. So I think it's for Polestar, like mostly Polestar customers. So I don't know if it's open to everybody. But like I said, I will be bringing cameras and things and doing some coverage on it. So hopefully some interviews with the guys who are, going to be managing it and running it and learn more about it. Maybe learn more about the Polestar 3 as well. But excuse me. It's getting a little, as winter is starting to come, it's getting more and more dry down here. But I think that's going to be it for tonight. The next, let me see the calendar here. The next live show I have planned will be in November 30th, it looks like. Good. I was thinking it was going to be the day before Thanksgiving, which might have been a little rough for people, but looks like the 30th is the last Wednesday of November. So that'll be the next live stream. As of right now, I'll post it. If I do another one in between there, I'll post it for sure. And then tomorrow, the R1S video will be out. So look for that mid to late afternoon. Probably. I'm trying to work with the YouTube algorithm to release the video at the time where the most people will see it, and it can kind of get a little more traction. So testing out Thursdays for right now. We'll see how that goes. But so with that, thank you very much for joining. I appreciate it. Thank you for all the fun chat and good comments. I really appreciate that because it's much more fun when you guys are engaged and we can kind of have a good conversation between ourselves. So I appreciate everyone joining. Have a great night, and I'll talk to you later. Happy EV driving. Happy road tripping. Thanks for watching. Bye. And I didn't click on the